Today I'm going to show you how to relate to a narcissist. This video is going to teach you what's going on and what to do about it when you're dealing with a narcissistic partner. If you like the relationship advice and couples tips that you're learning in these videos, please subscribe to my YouTube channel right now. Just click on the subscribe button right here. If you're enjoying this video, please give it a like and share it. And please go to my websites, thepowercoupleformula.com and powercoupleseducation.com to stay connected and for lots more information about how to build an amazing relationship. All right, let's roll up our sleeves here and dig in because this is tough stuff. Now, if you've been researching narcissism online, you've probably heard a lot of people say that you cannot relate to a narcissist. Don't even try. Just get out of the relationship and run screaming in the opposite direction. But there are several problems with this approach. Before I get into talking about what these problems are, I want to say that if you're in an abusive relationship where you're being physically or sexually abused, you need to get out as soon as possible in a safe way. You have every right to leave an abusive partner. In fact, it's critical that you do so for your own safety, and if you have kids, for their safety as well. All right, but let's get back to talking about the problems with jumping to the conclusion that you can't relate to a narcissist. The first problem is that many people mistype their partners. So many people jump to the conclusion that their partner has a certain personality disorder when they start to run into problems with their partner without really knowing anything about personality disorders or whether that's even accurate. It's easy when your partner's behaving in a way that you don't like to blame them and say, oh, they're just being self-centered and that must mean they're a narcissist. But the truth is that many partners make mistakes when they try to figure out what's going on with their partner. And it's very important that if you're struggling, that you do get couples therapy so that you can have a third-party professional who's trained in working with personality disorders to assess what's going on. In the meantime, I want to arm you with as much information as I can just to point you in the right direction. Another problem with jumping to the conclusion that you can't relate to a narcissist is that people are much more dynamic and fluid than you might think. Now, of course, one of the hallmarks of all personality disorders is this rigidity and this inflexibility in the self-structure. But at the same time, people are constantly being impacted by their relationships, especially with people who are closest to them. So your relationships have the power to change your very sense of self. After all, your sense of self was first developed through your early relationships with your parents or primary caregivers. So your sense of self can continue to change and evolve as a result of new experiences that you have in relationships, especially intimate relationships. And this goes for personality disorders as well, perhaps to a slightly lesser extent. People who are really healthy can really deteriorate if they're in a relationship where they're being treated poorly, and vice versa, people who have a real problem with the self-structure can act much better if they're being treated well in a relationship. The bottom line is you don't want to underestimate the power of your relationship to have a positive impact on your partner and their behavior. At the same time, relationships with people who have personality disorders can be devastating. You may have been the victim of a variety of different experiences, and I want to list those for you now. Here are some of the common relationship experiences that can happen to partners who are in relationships with narcissistic people. Your narcissistic partner may have done any of the following. They may have had one or multiple affairs, either emotional or sexual in nature. They may have stolen money from you that was jointly yours. They may have told you very serious lies, or they may have withheld really important information from you about who they really are. They may have also kept important secrets from you, secrets that directly involve you and your relationship with them. For instance, maybe they quit their job a year ago and they never told you. And when they leave for work in the morning, they're actually going to somewhere you don't know and doing something that you don't know. They may have abandoned you at really important moments in your life, and they may not have protected you from serious harm. For instance, they may have had an affair, come home with an STD, and then given it to you without even a second thought. Or perhaps you were pregnant and you had a scary moment in your pregnancy where you started to bleed and you called them to come and take you to the hospital, and they decided not to come home from work. All of these types of experiences exemplify a certain type of problem in intimate relationships, and we call that betrayal. Now, betrayal is a different type of problem than all of the other kinds of problems that couples have in relationships, meaning the day-to-day types of meat and potatoes problems that many couples have. Those day-to-day problems are things like we don't communicate well, or we don't have good sex, or, my wife is kind of bossy, or my husband's a bit on the slobby side. Those are the sort of day-to-day problems that result from insecure attachment that are much easier to deal with. But the difference with betrayals, that list that I just gave you of all of those very horrible things that can happen in a relationship, is that those things represent a rupture in the agreements between the couple. These betrayals create long-lasting trauma, a real injury to the relationship itself. They fundamentally shake up the very ground of the relationship, because for the victim, they completely turn your entire reality on its head. So the victim no longer knows which way is up. You start to have to re-examine every moment that you had with this person. So, for instance, in the case of finding out some sort of secret information about your partner that they neglected to share with you in the beginning of the relationship, when you find that out and that comes to the surface, you're going to be thinking about everything else that they might be hiding from you and wondering who this person even is. Much less can you really trust them. Or in the case of an affair, you find out that your partner has been seeing a lover for years, and now you have to go back through all of your memories of being with that person, like when you were on vacation in the Bahamas and having this romantic moment, you thought, with your husband, but really when he went to the bathroom, he was really going to call his lover. So this is really how the person who is victimized by these betrayals has to now rethink every single moment of their life with this person, and it completely turns their reality upside down. There's no way to really overemphasize what a complete trauma and destabilization this is for the victim. So what do you do if you've been the victim of this type of treatment and you find yourself in this situation? It's really, really hard to make sense of it, so I'm going to try and give you some key pointers here. The first thing to know is that if you've been a victim of these types of behaviors, these are bona fide reasons to end your relationship. A lot of people in our culture, both men and women, have this idea about intimate relationships, that they should be based on unconditional love, that no matter what happens in your relationship, when you choose somebody as your partner, especially if you get married, that means that come hell or high water, the two of you should stay together, and that is the right and good way to be. That's actually a fallacy. That's not true. Because what that is basically saying is that no matter how you are being treated, you should stay. You should stay in the relationship and make it work. And if you don't do that, somehow you're an immoral person. But the fact of the matter is that people should not stay together at any cost. So the first thing is to be able to assess the magnitude of the problem. Is your partner just, sneaking an extra piece of chocolate before they take the kids to nursery school, or have they been having an affair for the last year, and that constitutes hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of lies to you? So if you are in that territory where the injuries that have occurred in your relationship are monumental, then here are some guidelines for you. Number 1, be clear about your bottom lines and be willing to end the relationship if these aren't met. Understand that your partner can only act in these destructive ways in your relationship because they're being allowed to do so, because they understand that whatever they do, there aren't going to be any consequences for that. So your job as the victim of that abuse is to set very firm boundaries that this needs to stop now or you're going to end it. The big problem that victims of this type of abuse make is that they threaten to leave, but when they are continuing to be abused by their partner, they don't actually follow through and get out of the relationship. That teaches the narcissistic partner that there's no reason for them to fix the problem and change their behavior because their partner's never going to leave them. The narcissistic partner can easily tolerate a brief wave of their partner being upset, and they know it's going to pass, and then they can just keep doing whatever it is that they want. It's sad to say that for some narcissistic partners, the only thing that will motivate them to actually make a change and clean up their act is the real threat of their relationship ending. But that's just the reality. Therefore, be clear about your bottom line. Be able to draw a line in the sand and be willing to act if that expectation is not met by your partner. The second piece of advice, which also gives you incredible power to uphold your bottom line, is that you develop a plan B for your life. So the big issue that the victim of this type of relationship abuse often faces is that they feel trapped in their relationship. If you're the victim of this type of abuse, you may threaten to leave your partner when they call you names or humiliate you or make their mother's opinion more important than your own, but you don't actually follow through. And the reason that victims don't follow through is because they often feel trapped, like they can't get out. If this is you, maybe you've been off the job market for decades, you've been raising children, you didn't ever further your education, you know you're not employable, or maybe you just don't want to leave your home, your neighborhood, you are afraid of starting over, you're afraid of being on your own. And your narcissistic partner knows that you feel trapped in the relationship and that you're not going to leave. And this emboldens them to treat you however they want. So it's like you get caught in this cycle of threatening to leave, but both of you know that you are never really going to do it, and it just is just like empty words. This is where developing a serious plan B for yourself can really change this whole dynamic. But it means really thinking about what you are going to do if you do need to end your relationship in really practical terms. It means thinking about things like, well, how would you support yourself? It means having a consultation with an attorney and finding out what your rights are as a divorced person financially and what you can expect in terms of the regulations of your state around division of assets. It might mean exploring new neighborhoods, new schools, and getting out there and looking for jobs, brushing up your resume, talking to friends and family who you know have your back and would support you in making this transition. Understanding your resources on an emotional, physical, and financial level, and being able to clearly visualize those for yourself is a critical component to being able to claim your power in your relationship. Finally, it's important that if you do decide to work on your relationship, that your partner who has committed these injuries understands the mistakes that they've made and the gravity of them. That these are not trivial things that they've done, but that this person has royally messed up. If your partner has no appreciation for how serious the things are that they have done to you, and they are just waiting for you to kind of brush it under the rug again, that is a serious no-go. You've got to understand that if your partner is not willing to acknowledge what they've done wrong, your relationship has no chance. You're simply setting yourself up for a pattern of abuse and mistreatment. And that means it's time to get out now. You need to know when it's time to let go of a bad relationship. If you and your partner are dealing with these types of issues, and there's some kind of acknowledgement from your partner that they have seriously wounded you and that you have every right to leave them, and they want to make this work and they're willing to put in the work to repair these injuries, it's critical that you seek out a licensed mental health professional who specializes in betrayal trauma and personality disorders potentially, who can help you and your partner try to put the relationship back together. If your partner really does understand the depth of the wound that they have created, and if you are truly willing to get out, if you don't get the change that you need in order to be happy, then the two of you have the possibility of undergoing a transformational process together in seriously changing your relationship for the better. So now let's hear from you. Have you or someone you know been the victim of betrayal in relationship? If so, what are the steps that you would need to take to stand up for yourself and say no? Leave me your comments below. I really look forward to reading them, and I'll see you in the next video.